All right, let's take a look at what you've got. Isaiah. All right, you got two of them, so let's take a look at both of them.
Uh, they're the same, just the second one has color to it.
One's colored.
Yeah.
All right, so that looks good. Oop, hold on. Yeah, there's a strange little playback on Zoom. You see that? Unless you actually delivered a, does it loop okay for you?
I it looped fine when I played it on my computer. I'll check.
Yeah, see, there's a little delay right there.
It's the LMS website. that
Right,
does
yeah,
that.
yeah, it's just the school site. So it looks okay. Actually, let me download it so we can actually see what it looks like, because I want to make sure it's working okay. So I'm looking at just whenever I do this, and this is a good time in the class to talk about this as well. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll look at just one little thing. Like I'll look at just this little corner. Can you see my mouse, by the way?
Yes.
I always forget, yeah. So I'll look at the top, and I'll look at those little connection points, and those look really nice. They look really still. They're not flapping around indiscriminately. The wave of this flag right here is working. The wave on the top is working. Then I'll look at the crease, and then I'll look at just, and I'm studying, trying to see all the frames, all 8 drawings. So this is working pretty well. The only thing I'm seeing is that there's kind of a little frame or two where the corner of the flag here is just kind of hanging out there.
Yeah.
It's looking a little too straight, but I think it's okay. I think this is good.
Sure.
You know, so a lot of times, another thing that I'll do is I'll make it smaller. I'll make it really small just to see if my eye catches anything else. And it is catching one thing at this size, and that is, and you can do this yourself, Isaiah. Go back into your file and look. And what I'm going to pause this for just a second and just frame by frame. So I think that what you could do is, let's go all the way to back to frame 1. So I think you start out okay, and I think the reason why that corner is looking a little too mysterious is that you've got 3 or 4 drawings in a row where it's just kind of hanging out there, and it's you know, it's kind of inconceivable that the wind would let the flag do that. So then it curls over, which is fine, but it only does it for 1 frame or for 1 drawing. And in order to get that to read, so let's look at the bottom one. The bottom one is working a little better. So it curls down and then back and then forward. So there's 2 frames there, but the one on the top only has 1 frame where it curls backwards. And so don't do the top one for just 2 frames, do the top one for 3 frames. So get it to curl, and it's good that they're happening at different times. Get it to curl and roll back over for at least 2 more drawings. So I know that you can draw in Zoom. Drawing in Zoom is a weird tool. And so, but instead of getting it to curl over, you might want to repair it so that it curls over a little bit more. Hold on, let me clear this. So there's the curl over right there. I think that just the way to enhance this just a little bit, and really, I don't think that you need to do this for me. You know, I think that you've got your points and your credit for it. But just kind of look at this. There's a couple of things to think about here, just kind of logically, that you've got the distance of the flag. And then it kind of gets a little fat right here. See that? And then it stays a little fatter on the end. And I think that one thing that you can do to kind of trim that down is that in order to get this, the volume on this part of the flag to be reduced just a little bit, is to take whatever frame this is. My guess is that it might be drawing 3 or drawing 4, and take the drawing before it. So if it's drawing 4, then the drawing 3, then kind of trim drawing 3 down, and then get the little corner to move over, kind of make it look like that. And then in drawing 4, just have it increase just a little bit. And then drawing 5, have it go all the, have it look similar to drawing 3. So 3 is the start, 4 would be the middle, and 5 would be the end. And so what I mean by that is that if you put a little circle 8 on this, like that, then drawing 3 would be here, 4 would be the middle, and 5 would be the end, and 3 and 5 would kind of be in the same place. So if you have drawings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, which would be fine. And you could try all kinds of things in there, but for the most part, I think it's working. All right. And I don't want to like beat that one to death or anything, but that's working. Can we see some hands for Isaiah, please? Yay! All right, Janeska. Janeska's not here. She's going to be watching this on record. All right, so this is working, Janeska. I think this is okay. Again, I think that the tip of the flag out here is just kind of mysteriously hanging out in space. Right? You know, if we talk about the width of the flag, I think it's okay. But I think that this might be better if you kind of revision this so that there's more of an interesting arc on the top. I think the bottom is working, but just revisit that corner of the top of the arc. I think the other thing that you would like you to do is just to think about putting a different shape to where the flag meets the flagpole. It's a little inconceivable that the flag is going to be right up against the flagpole. And I think that, remember, that was like one of the first steps we did last week, was just to trace that back. And so those would be 2 little fixes that I would recommend on that for you, Janeska. All right, Jihi.
Yes.
All right, so that's looking really good. Let me download this so that we can actually see it correctly. Yeah, okay, this is working. And now you can see this is a really good example of what's happening to your eye when you see the animation cycling over and over and over again. Your eye is definitely catching all those shapes. So Isaiah, this is exactly what I was talking about for looking at the little tip is just a little tiny triangle, and then it let's start at the beginning of the cycle. So there's a medium one, then there's a fatter one, that's 2. Then a 3 is the small or medium one again, and then a small. So there's actually 4 or 5 of them right there, right? So there's 5 little corners. Now they are painted a little darker purple. And so what happens is that that's the thing that your eye sees. I didn't put this in my animation principle sheet, but let me actually take a look. There is a mention to this, and that is that, and I didn't really talk about this very much on the first day of class, but I put this little thing in the camera thing here called isolationism, and this comes to all of us, to me, from my colleague his name was Ken Cope, and isolationism kind of eluded me for many years, and I'm not sure exactly why he picked that term, but basically there is a theory in filmmaking, and I'm going to stop the playback here. I'm going to switch back to this mode here. So I want you to imagine something. Let's forget about animation entirely for just a moment, and that you've got Wes Anderson or Guillermo del Toro or any of your favorite directors, and they're on set. You're shooting something live action, and there's a couple of different ways that directors handle their live action shots. Clint Eastwood is notorious for like, okay, go, just like the game, okay, go. And then instead of saying cut, Clint Eastwood will say, okay, that's enough of that. And so that's how he handles, that's his style of directing. In the olden days, in the 30s and 40s, some directors would say background, lights, camera, action. What does background mean? Jordan, what does background mean? Background, lights, camera, action. What does background mean? Take a guess.
I'm guessing it just has to do with literally the background, like the environment that's going to be around the set.
Sort of. You missed one part of it though. Why would he have to cue the background? I don't think that he would mean the set. Take a guess. Isaiah, Jihi, John.
Is it like the extras?
The extras, whatever the ambient action is happening in the background. Like, let's say, for instance, that we're inside a restaurant and everyone is just kind of not moving around very much. But in that particular shot, you've got customers that are sitting down at the table. Maybe you can see it's an Expedition kitchen and you can see the cooking and the waiters and everything. So when he says background, that means that he wants the ambient movement in the background to start. Background, lights, camera, action. So when in isolationism, what Ken was getting at was that idea in film where if I say background and everything in the background is moving faster than the two people sitting at the table talking, then that's what your eye is going to pick up on. Your eye sees the thing on the screen that's moving the fastest. And you can make a note of that. Whether you're a animator or game or film major, it's all the same theory. And in practice, it actually works. So watch anything. Watch a commercial, watch a short film, live action, animation, live broadcast even is a good one. Anything on YouTube, and just repeat it, study it. Your eye will pick up on the thing that is moving the fastest. As an animator, you animated this shot, right? You animated this and you understand what all these little parts look like. You can see this thing moving. And so what happens is that corner of that flag is the thing that's technically moving the fastest because you've got more contrast. You've got purple against light purple against the blue-gray sky. And so that's the thing that your eye picks up on. If you had not done 4 drawings in a row, this would have popped. It would technically would have popped. But because you've got 4 drawings working in a row, it's actually working fairly smoothly. Now, the thing is that it's doing that over and over again, right? It's like down, 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 down. And the way to do this in your animated film would be is to understand how that works, understand that the tip of this flag is pointing towards the camera. Hence, you painted it darker purple, right? And then to do it again and have it flip the other way. Now, you won't be able to see it for those 3 or 4 drawings, but, and then if, so it'll be a better clip if you do it that way. Again, you don't have to do it for me or for your points or for your grade, but for your own self. Go in there and make a second loop. So what I would suggest is that you try something like this in your timeline, and that you have this is your Toon Boom timeline, right? And you've got this is 8 drawing cycle right here. This is what you've got. This is what you're animating. And so if you animated this and then copy and pasted it here, and so this is exactly the same. And then this one is the new one. So these 8 frames here, or 8 drawings, this has the flag just going to the other side, just on the top. And so there's 4 drawings here that you don't really see the tip. And so these, and it'd be right here, drawings 3 are frames 9, 11, 13, and 15. So that'll break this up. So your eye sees this cycle, and it sees this cycle, and then all of a sudden this is new, right? So, and this happens everywhere in animation. If you, as the animator in a game, want this to look more interesting, more special, this is a really easy way to make it look like the isolationism would be here. This is the thing that your eye is going to see. So, oh, where did that go? That's the little bit of magic. And you could do it again. You could try this option here, where you go 1 cycle, 2 cycle, 3 cycle, and then have this one be the one that is new. Either one of these will work. This is the 3x, and this is the 4x. And I think that's a really good notion, because my intuition is that you followed my demo last week, and this probably took you an hour and a half, right?
Something like that.
Something like that. So how long is it going to take you to do this little bit? If I say those 4 drawings right there at the end of the cycle, trim them and fix them, how long is that going to take? 4 minutes, right? It might take you a moment to realize how to copy and paste all of those flag frames, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't talk about something. So let me explain something in Toon Boom just for a second, and we will come back to this in just a moment. So John, sit tight for just a moment. So let me, go ahead.
No, nothing.
Yeah, because you're next. I'm just saying sit tight. All right, so in Toon Boom, this is just a trivia thing that you can listen to and forget if you want. But if you are going to work in Toon Boom, there is one thing to think about here. That when Toon Boom first came out, they were trying to take over Flash. They had purchased, and the people who are working on work with Toon Boom now, engineers, designers, animators, had purchased the application called US Animation. And US Animation was extremely complicated, just like Toon Boom is right now. and they renamed it. They renamed US Animation into Toon Boom, and that was probably somewhere around 2001, 2001, something like that. And they didn't do that thing where when Flash had bought Macromedia, they just put the Adobe shell on top of it, and they left all the other coding behind it, and Flash was still screwed up for many years. Parts of Animate are still screwed up. They rebuilt everything. But when they did that, they have this notion in here in one of the first drop-down menus. And this is 21, so they may have removed this. It used to be right up here where it said you could either work with it as Toon Boom, or you could even emulate Flash. And I'm not seeing it right now. They might have just removed it. And this was this was Toon Boom trying to get all the Flash animators out there to migrate over to Toon Boom. And so there was a thing up in here where they could just say all those people who are working with Flash, they could use it. It would look like it. So anyway, so it was there. They probably have taken it away because hardly anyone is animating in Flash anymore. And now just historically, does anyone know why animators were working in Flash? There was a really good reason for this. Anybody know? It's a one-word answer. Games. The thing is that the Flash was supposed to be just a web design application, and they needed 4 states. They needed when you click on anything on a website, you need overstate, press, and neutral, overstate, press, and release. When you're talking about a button on any website, and so that's only 4 frames, right? That's 4 different frames. And instead of just giving the animation timeline 12 frames, they gave it 1800 frames, just right out of the box. And the animators, especially the ones at Wild Brain, were like, oh, look at that, we can animate in this. And Flash would crash every 4 minutes. Every 8 minutes, Flash would crash. And so those old time animators like me were always hovering their left hand thumb over the command button and the S button for save. It was like save. Every time you do something, save. It was like this strange way of working. They've since kind of changed it. The Macromedia even changed it, and now you can still animate in Flash, but it was for games. And then for mobile and for web-based, we were using Flash just to animate, and it wasn't the best. All right, so that's too much information. John, all right, so this is looking good. Let's download it. All right, this is looking good. Yeah, this is good. Again, I'm looking at just each little part. You got the wave thing working. That's good. That's good. You got lots of differentiation in here. You have 8 drawings, right, John?
I'm sorry.
You have 8 drawings?
Yeah, 8
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it's looking good. Yeah, it's good. Hands for John, please. Yay! All right, put that away. Louisa's not here today. Or yet. Okay. You know, that's the trick is always the tips out there, right? So Louisa, if you see this critique, I think that you could do that same thing where you, just like I had recommended to Jihi, copy and paste everything in your, oh, that's what I forgot to tell you. and get the flag to flip over on the top. The thing that I was going to mention to you is that if you go in here in the timeline, I'm sorry, I distracted myself, and you say copy, you right click and you say copy cells from the timeline. Does everyone see what I'm doing right there? So you say copy cells from the timeline, and then you go to the next frame out there. And then you just say, you right click and you say paste cells, because that was a right click. And you say paste the cells from the timeline. Then what ends up happening is that you end up inadvertently creating symbols. And symbols are a Flash-based thing. And so when you are on the stage, when you are on a frame, with the drawing tool, in the library, you can see that there's drawing substitution things here, which you could do in Flash. And you can see here that there are no symbols yet. And ideally, what happens is that the reason that you work with symbols in Flash and in Toon Boom is that it makes the file size really small. Symbols are vector-based. They're really, really small. But the problem is that once you copy and paste, anything you do to frame one will now happen to any other copy of frame one, because that's how symbols work. And so the best way to avoid that, so Jihi, anyone who wants to try that copy and paste thing, is easy if you just take this frame right here and use your main selection tool and then just copy everything from the stage. Just copy it as an object and then go to this frame out here and then paste it as an object. That way you avoid using symbols. Using symbols is great. It makes the file sizes small, but the problem is that if you wanted to adjust this frame, or like for instance, Jihi, if you wanted to just say, I'm going to copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and then you would be really frustrated because on that fourth copy, if you wanted to now adjust the tip of the flag up there, it would adjust it on all of the other instances of the drawing number one. And instead of doing cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3, cycle 4, you would just be having the same exact cycle every single time. And that part can be really frustrating. Did you understand that? Does everyone understand that? It makes like a copy of it. And so whatever you do to frame 1 would be happening on frame 16 and then frame 38 or 34, whatever that frame is. So sorry, I distracted myself. It's early in the morning still. All right, so this is Louisa. So yeah, this is looking pretty good. So the comment would be is to just do the same thing I just recommended, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and then tweak the last cycle so that we don't see the isolationism at the top right there. And it's not just you, everyone. This little thing here at the top, this little nuisance here at the top is always the problem. It's because you want to emulate nature. You want to make sure that it looks like a flag that's blowing in the wind. It's natural, that it's not anything funky. And the top of the flag is always the trickiest part. All right, Jordan. All right, so this is working. It's good. You've done everything correctly. I think I would remove this little rope right here. That little rope right there.
Okay. I can do that.
Because I think that technically the way flags, well, it can be there. But I think it would just look better if it was out of there because it's kind of
Okay.
interfering with the edge of the flag.
Gotcha.
And so
Yeah.
this is just a trivia thing here. It's not really a trivia thing here. So this is the first one we've seen where it's not painted. So one of the things that is going to happen here is when you paint this a color, you're going to see this corner strobing more than it is right now. And the reason for that is because right now, the only contrast that you have is the darker line against the white background. And it's working. I mean, it's there. This is not that hard of a project, right? But as soon as you paint this, this is going to strobe. This is going to quote unquote flash a little bit more. And so you too might want to make that adjustment where you tweak the arc of that curve and get it to flip over a little bit more. You can kind of see that frame by frame that this particular, that one right there, this is looking a little sharp. That corner is looking really sharp right there. And then as you go through it, it kind of softens a little bit and becomes more looking like a fabric. So I would say tweak your very first and your second drawing, right?
Yeah. I was looking for feedback because it's the first time I've animated the flag.
So I think everything is working. It's just that that's looking really sharp up there.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you want us to color it, by the way?
No, I didn't. You
Is
didn't
it
have to.
preferred?
That was just up to you.
I guess, is it preferred though for, I guess, credit and things like that?
No, just, and this, remember that the more important thing, and nobody's in trouble because you're all getting that wave correctly. In fact, as soon as I left class and said goodbye to you all last week, I made a note that said, sometimes the students in this class get in trouble because they don't understand how that wave works, how to get the node to go from left to right, how to get it to actually work. But no one's having that trouble. And there is one little teacher's trick in my book that I use to help with that. And we will talk about that when we're doing our smoke here.
Gotcha.
We'll talk about, because we're using the same basic principle, the same basic technique. All right, so this is Madison.
Yeah.
All right, so this is working as well. Again, I think that everyone got that notion of how to get that wave working. And remember that it's not actually the easiest thing to understand, but it looks like you did it. And I would recommend just trying that little suggestion of copying and pasting the objects from the stage into separate frames. And on the third copy is to give something different to that upper
Alright.
corner. And for whatever it's worth, I mean, look at it. The correct critique is that, hey, this is a piece of fabric. This is cloth. This is cotton. You know, how could this corner of the flag be straight up in the air like that for an extended period of time? You know, it's just one of those things about making it look natural. If we make it look really small, you know, it doesn't show up as much, but it's something to think about. So it looks really good. Can I see some hands from Madison, please? Great. All right. So let me put that away. All right. Yeah, sorry about the grades in the comment window. You can see that I've taken them out. They're in my book, but I've taken them out. All right, so what I'd like to do now, let's take a look at where we are in the outline. Oh, there was something here. Someone's giving me late and missing already. Oh, that was Jihi. It was Isaiah. When did you post this? You posted
Yesterday,
today?
yesterday.
Yesterday. Yep. It looks crazy great to me. Are you happy with it?
No, yeah.
I think that it's a lot of work, but it's fun. There is one critique that I could give you. Is that the cloud is looking a little dense.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And so one thing that I might suggest to you is to, and so let me see if I can find a better frame. One that's, that one was okay. But this one's a good frame. The only thing I might recommend to you is that the cloud, the blue and the turquoise and the green clouds they're looking just a little dense.
Sure.
And this is totally up to you. You know, you've got full credit for this. It's great. But let's try this. See if doing something like this might help it. Because I think the flag is just a little dense. And so go in there and with a black brush, kill some of that cloud.
Sure.
And I said brush, so you know, use the charcoal brush or the something like that, and just kind of go at it just a little bit. I'm squinting at it right now. It's fun to draw in black. Just to kill some of it. And do it quickly and see if it helps. My intuition is that it will help, but it's just that it's in my mind, it's reading just a little too dense, that's all. All right, let me grab this. All right, let me make a note. Okay, let us take a break right now. And take 15 right now, and when we come back, we will start talking and designing our smoke. And you will be very happy that we did the flag first, because there's no flag in here. But now that you know how to do the flag, the smoke will seem that much easier. All right, take a 15-minute break. I'll see you at 10:15. Get my hard drive open again. All right, so what we're looking at here is, let's do this first. Let's go to Pinterest. Pinterest, and I don't care if I'm saying it incorrectly. My daughter always hates it when I say Pinterest. Papa, it's Pinterest. I don't really care. It looks like it says Pinteresting. All right, so on the effects board, I did post a couple of things in there, last couple of days. I thought this was really great, this little lightning here. I think one of the reasons why I like this lightning is because it's got little bits. It's got little sparks that come off the bottom of it. And we'll talk about that when we get to the volcano. I thought this was good too, the drawing of the glass breaking. That was nice. So again, you all have access to this board. I have probably pinned this water from Joe Gilland a dozen times on this board. So when we get to the water, you know, I always want to put it in there so I know where to find it. And this is a really great tornado here. This is really cool. You can kind of, and I think I might have mentioned this before, we could kind of mention that the dragon's heads aren't moving very much or at all, but then the tornado under them is, that could kind of be a really cool thing in there. So yeah, that was new to me. I think that this one is actually a GIF. And there's some smoke in there. Let's kind of look at it. It's cycling. That's good. It's cycling smoothly. That's good. This is really good when we're talking about combining fire and smoke together, and it's got little embers that come out of it. That was new to me. I hadn't seen that one before. So that post right there was new. This was good. When we talk about smoke, you can do this if you want. I don't think that on my thing right here, I include style. Oh, I do. Under aesthetics, under art. So this is me challenging you to say, okay, we're going to do smoke. But we're going to do smoke so that everyone can understand it. This is a good smoke right here, a little ribbon smoke. This looks like water, but it's drawn like smoke. This is kind of the one that we're going for. But I hesitate on this one because there's just so much detail. It's beautiful, but it's more like feature film quality. And in an effects class right here, I think that we just need to keep going. we need to do smoke fairly quickly. And if you were animating smoke like this for 8 seconds, that could take you weeks and weeks and weeks. This is very dramatic. There's a 3-point perspective going on in this one. It's very cinematic. This is kind of what we're going for here, except that, again, I think it's got too many details. I mean, this one looks like this one, but oriented incorrectly, and I hate that about Pinterest. All right, so smoke. Again, these are very beautiful. They're coming to us from Avatar. A lot of detail. Here's a tiger with some smoke on it. Kind of cool. Here's a tornado. This is good smoke. I like the shapes in there. And a lot of times what I'll do right now is to remind all of you that it's good to just look at a lot of different references to get shapes in your eyes. What are we going for? What kind of shape, what kind of smoke are you looking for? This could be done very easily. This cigarette smoke right here, it could be cool. Oh, we could animate that in just 20 minutes or so. But I think that what I'm looking for is more authentic, traditional 2D animated smoke. And again, now let's take a look at this one, because this is kind of right where we're going. In our class, they do talk about eruptions and bubbles and water drips and lava and mud. So if we're looking ahead, and we start looking at this and we say, okay, now is about time. One of the first things that you should do is not copy my thumbnail number 6, but just kind of look at it and go, do you want to do a volcano? Because then the volcano could have smoke and lightning and rain and water and fire. This piece right here is excellent. And a lot of times what I have done is thought about this piece that has smoke and lightning and projectiles and water and fire and smoke all in it would be great for a final. But remember, the class has smoke and eruptions and bubbles and all of this stuff right in the middle of the module, right in the middle of the class. So I was like, what do we do? And then again, with my thing about style, this is kind of a nice illustrated style. The smoke is very doable. We're not getting exactly what I want in terms of the smoke. Some things are close. Let's go backwards. fire can be very stylized. Water can be very stylized. Smoke can be very stylized. There's another stylization of water. And even though this might look photorealistic, this one's really nice for fire. And remember that what we just learned about flag animation will apply to smoke and fire. You know, this smoke right here is beautiful. It's just really great. I believe it would just take way too long to animate. You know, these little tornadoes over here are just maybe a little too simple for us. This smoke is looking pretty good, but it's more of an explosion, and we'll get to explosions later in this semester. This smoke is gorgeous. Maybe just a little easy to do. You're welcome to try that on your own. But let's talk about the main smoke. And I usually start right here. This one's really good. It's good for a couple of reasons. It's easy to understand. It's doable. We can look at motion of smoke effects happening as early as next week. We'll spend a couple weeks on the smoke, actually. And it shows you a wrong way to do it. You know, don't be, I'm trying to be nice. You know, don't be too simple. Don't make it symmetrical. Don't make it too parallel. Break it apart. Let the wind kind of move back and forth. So I like this one. We're going to leave it there, but let's go down and see what it's registering. Let's see what's trending behind it if I click on that. You know, this is good too. So this is a variation on this one. So I like that. So I'm going to open this one in a new tab and just leave that. So I've got this one open and this one, and I want something in between those two. So with this one selected, let's see what's referencing behind. Oh, it's got this one already behind it. You know, this one is interesting here. I believe if you look at this one, you can see that there's an interesting shape to the smoke that is coming up. I interpret this just a little differently because these are important. These little eddies, these little vectors showing which way the wind is actually pushing is important. But I believe that we could spend a month doing this kind of smoke, and it would be really great. But we need to do other things. We need to try to get as many things done in this class as possible. And remember, me inviting you to this board means you can always come back to it. This is interesting, you know, they're talking about smoke is clouds. You know, there are particles in it, but don't be too simple. In this drawing right here, you've got a repetitive shape happening. You've got these outside curves. They're all the same. Medium, 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 all the way around it. You know, it's very first grade looking. And you know, this fire here it's okay, but look at how much cooler it is if you think about the variety of shapes. The same thing with the water and the cloud here, which is giving you very small little bits of clouds, little medium shapes, and then a bigger one over there. You know, so I'm going to open this one in another tab just to, oops, hold on. What did I do? Oh no, I just screwed up my trend. I want to open up this one in a new tab just to keep that thing in my mind. I don't think it's ideal, but it's okay. And there's not a lot of things trending. I could actually put this one away. We've seen it. Well, but I like this smoke and I like this one. Let's see what's trending behind this one. All right, I'm getting kicking and composition and birds. It's not working again. So let me open it up in a new tab and see if I can get smoke to trend behind it. And I think we're about ready to go. This is smoke. A rocket taking off will give you smoke, but there's a couple of problems with this. The rockets usually send out a whole plume of smoke moments before it actually leaves the ground. And it's great. It's beautiful. You can watch all of the footage of any of the rockets taking off into space. But the problem is that it doesn't cycle. This smoke is great, but it doesn't cycle. It doesn't cycle at all. And it moves in every direction. It moves left and right and up and round and counterclockwise and clockwise. And it's beautiful, but it doesn't cycle. You know, I'll leave this one here because if you are following my lead and saying, hey, you know, I do want to put fire in my volcano. So this one, it's good showing you the shapes and the rhythms of the shapes, if that makes any sense. All right, so this, we like this, but this is, it doesn't cycle. For me, I want things to cycle. So let's see what we got. So we might want to come back to this one. This one is good. And then, you know, there's some good things in that one. So I think we're about ready to go. So let me show you some examples. And these, again, are going to be embedded in the volcano project. You are, as artists, welcome to think about doing each one of these effects as a standalone piece. I think that it's worth more, it has better value for you as an artist to put things together here as early as week 4. So let's just take a look at some volcanoes. Now these technically don't cycle, or if they do, they're copying and pasting. This one is okay. You can see the flag waving, right? You can kind of see that flag waving. It's okay. It's got clouds. In this version here, I will show you how to just get a symbol. I will show you get an object to move on the stage. So those clouds are moving, but they're actually not animating. They're just moving. The fire is okay. I will show you how to copy and paste the fire and manipulate it so that it looks completely different. Though if you look at it, those two are actually the same fire. In this one, there's a little bubble happening in the middle here. There's lightning, and there's a water splash over here. So this has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 effects in it, and it's okay. I think this is another version of it. And it's good, you know, this one's okay. I think the smoke coming out of the volcano could be better. I think that there could be a more variety of shapes up there. The student's going for the stylization thing that I talked about. And, you know, you're welcome to try it. I think that it's you exploring your own style as an artist. And I think that it's not too early to try that. It also looks a little bit unfinished. The smoke is okay. It's not the best example, but you know, I do give you points for trying. All right, let's just look at this one in parts. I think that he starts out with some really good smoke in the background, and then it becomes a little flat. You know, that's okay. This part of the smoke thing here is not the very easiest thing to do. This fire's good. I like this fire over here. That's great. This fire over here is the same fire over here. No, it's not. So he did 2 different fires. And we do have bubbles. And so these are like mud bubbles. And he's got those happening in his little lava pit. He's got the projectiles. He's got the lightning. But he doesn't have the flash correct in the lightning. All right, so this is a good one where it's just not quite working so well. The smoke is wiggling around. It's not very long. This on my desktop right here, it's not even a full second long. So this is an example of something that's either not correct or not finished yet. This one, again, this one's an example of something that's not done or just not the best example. All right, so this is a good one in terms of just the overall stylization. I'm going to actually open this one as a QuickTime movie and loop it. And again, one of the reasons why I'm doing this is because it's not too early to think about this. Put these together. There's no reason why you as an artist can't be thinking about, okay, we're going to do the smoke, and you do the smoke for me as a standalone piece. That's great. But then you can copy and paste that into your final. But if you are going to copy and paste it into your final, then plan out where that smoke is going to go in your sketch. Again, these sketches are on graph paper. They're 4 units by 7 units tall. And I know I've done this before, but I'm going to do it for you again. That sometimes Zoom takes over my thing. So in my calculator thing here, we take 16 divided by 9 and you get 1.777. That's the aspect ratio. Your computer that you're working on more than likely is 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Your TV, if you have one, 16 by 9. Your cell phone, it's very, very common that you see 16 by 9. And so we do this again. So if you see 16 by 9, then 8 divided by 4.5, which is half of that, is the same ratio, right? And then I can draw in Zoom here for just a moment. And I make this point because I want everyone to know this. So you have 16 by 9 equals that same ratio, and then 8 by 4.5. And then you're going to have 4 by 2.25. And then you have 2 by 1 1/8. And 2.25 is 2.25. And 1 1/8 is 1.125. And so this is just a translation of this fraction. So what I'm going to do then is go back to this and clear it and say any of these ratios is going to give you the same thing. So 2 divided by 1.125. Oops, sorry. 2 divided by 1.125 equals, there's a ratio. So if you're paying attention to these numbers right here, 16 by 9 is your final ratio. 8 by 4.5 is just a really good illustration size, 8 inches by 4.5 inches. That'd be good for, and then 4 by 2.25 is really good for a final storyboard size. But then 2 by 1 1/8 is really good for thumbnail size when you're working with animation, even in games. If you're doing thumbnails for 16 by 9, thumbnails are really good. But then let's do this. Oops, I put that away. I didn't want to put that away. So let's do this. These little units are 4 by 7. So 7 divided by 4. Somehow I'm not in my mode anymore. 7 divided by 4. Look, that's very close. 1.75 is close to 1.777, and that would be fine. So that's why I picked this graph paper at 4 by 7. And that gives you a really nice thumbnail of what you're doing. So take a look at your modules as they're coming up. And you can do anything you want. You could put a tornado and a volcano together if you want. I mean, that would be a little much, but I think it would be, if we talk about isolationism, what's the fastest thing moving in that shot? That might be a little much. But you could certainly put the tornado and the water together. You don't always have to put the water and with the volcano. And then in our class, we have orbs that are going to be happening and beams and explosions. And like I said, a lot of times people, students come in with a chemistry lab for their final, and that's okay too. But I am asking you to think outside the box and be creative. And now is a good time to just kind of think about, how does this work? You've got a nice little stylization thing happening here. She's got bubbles, fire, lightning, smoke. So there are 4 effects happening here. And she was an animator, so she was spending some time thinking about what this illustration looked like. This one's good. This is a nice one. I kind of fought with her just about the idea that the fire was wiggling around, but there was no smoke coming off of it. All right, let's see if we can find another one. Let's just jump ahead, right? This was her final. So she's got smoke and rain and effects and water dripping, and the stylization was working fairly well. It's an example of something that's just not quite done. The student was thinking about the stylization of the fire just a little too much. And I think that this is why I want you to do this now, is so that you can get an idea of what stuff is working, what it looks like, what your composition looks like. All right, so that was that folder. Let's go back a couple more years. Nah! One of the better pixie dusts, right? Tornado. Combining the files together into a final so that it's a cut. There's an actual cut there. This is smoke. So you can see that this student is following my example that we'll do today fairly closely, right? And they did their smoke as a standalone piece, and that's fine. You can do that. This one is okay. Again, with this, the fire, the bubbles, the water, the lava, the smoke, there's lightning in there. So this has got 5 different effects. I think the smoke needs a little work. That's what I think. Oh, this was interesting. Let me see if I can go to this, because this was a suggestion that I put out there a while ago. Actually, I'm going to open up a new Pinterest tab. And this is a good time to be talking about this right now, because I had recommended, and I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. One of the very first times I taught this class 5 years ago was that I would recommend my effects teacher's name was Joe Gilland. And he did effects for like all kinds of things. And he wrote one of the best books on special effects called Elemental Magic. It looks like this. And one of the great things about this book, it's only $30 or whatever. But you know how some textbooks have words in it, and you're like, oh God, just show me the pictures, because we were all visual people, But when he talks about his effects, he talks about art, and he talks about the science and the magic behind art. So I highly recommend this book if you want to do anything with game and animation. This Elemental Magic book here is just really, really great. So I'm gonna change this from magic to campfire and see if I can hit it right straight away. If I get lucky, I did, I got totally lucky. And so this one has a really nice layout in terms of fire, smoke, water, and then you could put little embers coming on that. So this would be a really beautiful way to combine 3 or 4 different effects together. Animators, if you imagine that there was a young girl carrying the bucket of water in a cycle, comes up to the campfire and then douses the campfire, this is great. This would be a nice little way to think about how does this look for your final. And that's Joe Gilland. I actually worked with him on James and the Giant Peach. He is now running the special effects department at Vancouver Film School. He drives a motorcycle. He's a really cool guy. All right, so are we ready? We're ready. Okay, so we've got everything in place. We've got this. We've got a couple of tabs open here. We can always go back to that. And then we've got our Toon Boom open. And what I'm going to do is we're going to start a new project. And we're going to just call this Smoke. I'm going to call this Billy B underscore SM for Smoke. It's going to my documents folder. I want it to go on the desktop. I want it to be 1920 by 720 at 24 FPS. Remember that any of these choices here is the vertical. It's not the horizontal. So if you wanted to go 1920 by 720, that's the choice for it. We're just going to leave it at what the default is and say create. It's going to put this away. So I'm going to say don't save it because we didn't do any work to it. It's going to pause for a moment. It's going to put this file away and it's going to open up this one. I'm going to deselect the drawing layer and give myself a color card. I'm going to take this drawing layer and double click on it and just automatically call it BG. I'm going to give myself another drawing layer. I'm going to call this rough, spelled correctly. A rough, it's going to be vector, add and close. See where it is. I want the rough on top. I'm going to open up another drawing layer. This one's going to be my arc layer, add and close. Arc is fine if it's on top and we can start there. We're probably going to not need, at least for this smoke demo, any more than 60 frames, but we can take this out to 120. That's 5 seconds worth of animation. That's fine. All right, and again, I think that even though this is Harmony 21, that everything is pretty much the same. I don't see any different tools or widgetry behind it. It's all looking pretty much the same. All right, so let us do our demo kind of based on this drawing here. Oh, you know what? There is one thing that I forgot to do, and that is that I didn't show you mine. And because I'm an idiot, I didn't render it. And I don't think I put it on YouTube. Remind me, Isaiah, Jinhee, John, remind me to show you my this one here, this number 6 on my thumb. I animated that one as a demo, but I don't think I rendered it. It's just a Toon Boom file. Remind me next week, and I'll show you that one. All right, so let's just plan this out. There's a couple of things I want to do on this arc layer. And I'm just gonna, and remember, this is the best way to set up your color palette. The way to get there is just to right click and just say that you want it to be in swatch mode. For this new color here, I want to match the color name with the layer. So this is just going to be my arc, and it's just so that you don't confuse yourself. And remember that when you're looking in the RGB mode, 000 is over 0 is black, blue at 255 is pure blue. That's fine. We're just going to leave the arc as pure blue for right now. I'm going to just put that away. All right, so in the arc layer, we're going to divide our stage up into cinematic thirds, which means that I've got a focal point here and here and here and here. I'm going to remind myself with a new color. Ooh, I did 2 new colors. And I'm just going to pick a yellow here. I'm just going to call it Y, because I want to remind you to stay away from the edges. This is your action safe area. And with this other new color, we're just going to call this green. All the way in the corner, RGB, G253255. Just change this to 255. And this will be green. That now you want your title safe area. That you want, those are your focal points. You've got a focal point in the middle, and you're talking about your composition. Okay, so if I want my smoke to be anything like this or this, you know, it's going to move from left to right. And I'm just going to do my demo left to right. It can go right to left. It's fine. You can do whatever you want. But I need to place the smoke so that it's kind of like in here somewhere, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this focal point and go, well, if I start my smoke with a smokestack, that's fine. So I can just kind of sketch in a little area where it's going to start from. I can be a little bit more precise. I can be even more precise by holding the shift key down and creating a straight line. Again, we're just kind of planning this out. And I don't want to be in green. I really want to be in my arc layer. All right, so let's just talk about this for a moment. Let me go to my tool, tool properties, because remember we were goofing around with this a little bit. And I always just double check. All right, so let's just look at this example. You got a clump, a clump, a clump, a clump. We've got a plume, plume, plume. We got the same little puff of smoke right here that moves into this position. And then it moves into this position and into this position. So the very first thing that we would need maybe is just an arc of motion. And let's, you know, maybe I don't like that last part. You know, you could have it go like that. That's one option. One option is to have it be more like this. That gives just a little bit more turbulence to the air. Now, all of a sudden, we've got something happening on the stage just already. And so right there is a pretty good place to think about the timing. So let's think about our flag. This is our node. It's going from this node to this node. And then if I continue this off, make it even a little bigger, it's going to move from this node to this node to this node. All of a sudden I could just say, okay, goodbye everybody, I'll see your smoke next week. Billy, you're such a jerk. All right, and then this node is going to go to this one, right? Right? So in my yellow, I can just say, well, my arc of motion for those two nodes is like this, and then like this, which kind of makes sense, right? The smoke is coming out, it's expanding, and it's falling on, but we've got little pockets of air between the smoke, right? So that's good. That's the thing is, all right, so now when we were doing our flag animation, we talked about going from whatever node this was to this node, And we talked about extending it and both before and afterwards. And we talked about this node moving to this node, but it got cut off by the shape of the flag itself. And remember that we were talking about the wind moving at or around 10 miles an hour, right? But we were really close. Our camera was really close on that flag. And here our wind might still be moving at or around 10 miles an hour, but now we are moved away from it. We're further back from it. And so it also might be moving slower. And so if we go from this position to this position to this position in the same amount of time, this smoke is going to move way too fast. It's going to move just way too fast. So let us just kind of think about this for a second and open up a new layer. And the layer on top of this is going to be our, what should I call this? I'm just going to call this my rough. No, I don't want to call it rough. I want to call it my layout. So I'm going to add a layout layer on top of that. It's going to be on the very top. And now the same thing I want to go over here. Now I want to lay out color. And I'm going to pick something that's just a little more in the blue range. And I'm going to take this arc layer here. And, you know, I would like to diminish it. I would like to say, hey, you know, for this blue that we were using right here, it's working, but let's take this arc and give it an alpha. Just make it really light. We just need an impression of where it is. And again, this is why we're using a separate color for everything. With the layout color on the layout, let's just look at this. And so we can say, I want a shape right here. And so I'm going to do a couple of things. So this is my layout. And I'm not going to treat it like an animator's technical layout, because layouts are actually kind of done, right? But I want this shape to move up to this position. And then it's going to move to this position. And all of a sudden, the thing that I was going to mention to you last week comes to play, where we're talking about nodes. We're talking about this shape being the dominant shape of the smoke itself. So I'm going to just kind of draw that in a little darker. And again, we're going to kill this layout color here in just a moment. All right, and so that sets our little thing here. Let's take a look at this. We've got a big shape happening up here. So now let's just kind of look at this and kind of go, oh, you know, this is the point. There should be a little bit of a break in the silhouette of these parts coming out of the smokestack itself, or as we go further into the semester, that could certainly become a volcano. So now I'm just giving a medium shape. Let's go to a really small shape. Let's do the same thing with this shape right here. This shape right here is going to go to this position. This shape is going to come from where we don't see it yet. So that's going to be like this shape. I'm going to draw this on my arc layer so we can modify that. And then there's going to be another X shape over there somewhere. Back to our layout layer. All right, and so I don't want to make this exactly, because you know, it's at one point or another, it's like, oh, I've seen that before. You just animated that from that drawing I saw on Pinterest. So let's switch it to this so we can see some more curve. Medium shape, another medium shape. This is going to be an inside shape here. So this will be a little tricky for us, but we can handle it. All right, so now I'm going to look at this whole arc here being an inside shape, but I don't want to give myself away. I want it to still be puffy smoke. So instead of emulating this shape, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to give myself a small one. and then a medium shape one, and then another small one. And then we can go big about halfway, and then let's break it up here. So there's 3 shapes here. Small one. Let's go back over here. And we're animating off the stage because we need to know where those positions are anyway. And I'm just going to take a moment here to kind of figure out how I want this to look. Now, I don't like this. I've got these 2 lines pointing towards the volume that's right here. And it's kind of bugging me because this puff of smoke should be more like this. So I'm just going to correct that and make that an outside curve. You don't want to make it look like it's, you know, entrails. You don't want to make it look like it's a stomach or your lower intestine or something. You don't want to make it look like poop. It has to look like smoke. So, and you don't want these things to be always opposite of each other. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be more organic. And so we're going to try to shoot for that. We're going to try to shoot for this thing looking a little bit more organic. All right, so I'm just gonna, so this is a point volume here. I might want to do that. And then I might want to make this one smaller. And you can see that it's looking very much like our other one. And you'll get through this. So one of the things you can do here is you can smooth these lines out here in just a moment. And so, again, we're going to need this, so just keep it off the screen. All right, so like I said, this looks very much like this one. It looks very much like it. So let's see if we can go and smooth some of these out. And still on our layout layer, let's see if we can like maybe give this more of a smoothness here. But the thing is that we might want to keep that in there just so we're reminding ourselves that that there's a node right there and we can use that node. All right, and maybe we can smooth this out because we smooth this, which is on the left side of our principal node. So maybe we can smooth this out just a little bit. I like that little plume right there. So that can be this. You know, you can put a little note right there, a little mark right there that this is going to turn into this, and that this is going to turn into this. It's going to be much bigger over here. So, and if you wanted to make yourself a little note, this dot turns into this, turns into this. Right? Got it? And then you could do the same thing. You could do an open circle on the other side of it. And that this open circle is going to go to this position. And then that position is going to go to here. All right, so now having said that, let's kind of give ourselves a curve right here. Let's kind of smooth that out a little bit. So I did it here, which means I should do it here, which is fine. I don't mind that little outside curve, but that curve is going to animate here. And I think that's fine. This can be just a simple curve that gets a little bit more integrated, a little bit more smoky if you want. So another thing that you can do here is that with this one, when you drew this little circle following the node, you can do your first little clump of smoke that follows along with it outside of the main form. It can actually even break apart into 2. And you can start breaking it apart into 2 somewhere between this key and this key. All right, so let's see what happens here. Let's smooth this out. Let's smooth this out. Keeping all that other stuff in there because we might need it. You know, this is okay. Let's make this one just a medium one. And I think we're ready to go. All right, does anyone have any questions? No one has a question? No, Madison says no. Oh, that's new to Zoom. There, I can see what you say in the chat right on top of your name. Okay, that's fine. All right, so let's continue. My question to you is, our flag was moving at 10 miles an hour and the nodes moved from there to there in 8 drawings. We can do the same thing here with this smoke in 8 drawings, but it's going to be moving quite a bit slower. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to set keys. And then we're going to have to probably talk about doing the breakdowns between the keys and then possibly in betweens as well. So let's try to get our 8 keys in there. And then we'll probably need 8 breakdowns and then probably 16 in betweens for a total of 32 frames. And then we can expand this 32 frames on 2s to 64 frames, which means that this node here would be moving from this position to this position in just about 3.5 seconds. And if we wanted to move it even slower, we could take it to 128. And then it would be moving really slow. And then we're right about out here. All right, does everyone understand that? Does that make sense? Okay, so let's set this. We've got this. Let me see if I want to adjust. I think that this is a little hokey right here, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of an outside curve right there. A little bit right there, just to make it subtle. And I think we're about ready to go here. One thing that we're going to do with this layout layer is we're also going to look at this and see if there's any place in here where we can put holes. So let's do that right now. And I think that a hole might be really good, like right here. Let's go backwards. And that hole is going to be right here. And then there's going to be another one right here. And because it's getting more complicated, maybe that hole breaks into 2 parts. All right, everyone okay? See what we're doing here? All right, is there any other place we might be able to put another hole right here? Let's stop and look at that. You know, is it looking too much? We can think about it. Well, let's get the main form moving first. All right, on our rough layer, we're going to take the layout color and we're going to diminish its alpha as well. Okay. Now we're going to go to the rough layer, but we need a rough color. So let's just give ourselves a rough color. Let's make this a little deeper blue. Let's get the alpha out of there just for the moment. And let's just, on this first rough right here, on this first key, let's just kind of, and we're not cleaning up right now. We're just kind of giving ourselves a better look on what this is. So do I want Toon Boom smoothing this out a little bit? It doesn't matter right now. All right, so let me take a moment here and give myself a rough line. Again, I'm looking for a variety of shapes. I don't want this to be just a bunch of poofy shapes coming out of there. And remember that the other thing that we're trying to do is not make it so cartoony, you know, but on the other hand, if you've never animated smoke before, you do want shapes in your eye so that you can at least follow them along. All right, as soon as I get this little bit done right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an animators thing on you, and I'm going to show you how to do a key instead of animating this thing straight ahead like we did our flag. I'm going to make an assumption that you all know how that motion of the flag was working. And we're going to do on a key right in the middle. All right, then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remind myself. Well, there's a couple of things I want to remind myself about. One is that on our arc layer, that this little, or actually on our layout layer, this little circle right there is not a hole. So if I want to find where that is. So it is on the layout layer. So on the layout layer with the layout color, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to put it like a line through it so that that tells me that that's not part of the design. On my rough layer, use the rough color. And I want this whole as part of my rough. All right, and then on the rough layer, I'm also going to remind myself that I want to paint to line, which is about a field outside of the main stage, which is why I'm using the drawing mode instead of the camera mode, right? I'm using the camera mode instead of the drawing mode because that pisses me off. You know, as an animator, you just do this and let the other people figure it out. Now, I don't like this curve right here, so I'm going to fix this. And I'm going to go cartoony on you by making that just an outside curve right there. All right, so I think we're ready to go. So now on this rough layer right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my onion skin on. And I can't see everything. So I'm going to extend the exposure on my rough layer by hitting the plus key and the layout layer by hitting the plus key. I'm going to go back to this. Now I can see all the other parts right here. On the arc layer with the arc color, I'm going to remind myself that this goes to this, goes to this. So it's speeding up right here. It may be that I want to slow it down, and I may want this to go over here. And I may want this to go over here. So before we do any timing, so this little node right here, we're going to call A. So this A is going to go to this position, to this position, to this position, to this position. And the reason we have to think of that is because if we just do it straight across, it's going to move straight across. If we do A, it will move right. It'll move to the right, it'll move up. It'll move to the right and down, and then up. So that becomes an important thing for us. Also important is that this helps us with our timing. Now, there is a little bit of a speed up right here, but that's okay. You know, the wind is carrying it away a little faster. On our rough layer then, with our rough color, let us, first of all, put this A position here and imagine that it's going to be about right here. So just the top of this little node right there. And then it's going to go from this position up to this position. This little A is going to go from here to there. So if it's curving, it's going to go to about right here. And then it's going to go back up again to this position. All right, so, and this is not timing at all yet. What we're doing is we're just trying to figure out what this breakdown looks like. We're doing this breakdown position. All right, does anyone have any questions about that? I know it might make more sense here in just a minute. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw, remember how we did these little circles first? So the first thing I'm going to do is just on my second drawing is just draw this position here. And then this position is going to move here. So it actually gets smaller, right? This whole shape of smoke just goes to this position. All right, and then this one is going to in between from here to there. So that position goes about like this. All right, so let's see if we got everything. This one goes to here. Oh, this one right here goes to here. Somewhere about right there. And then look at the timing. So we've done this so that so now we're doing these positions. We're doing the little intermediate positions right here. So going backwards, then you can start the new one. We don't actually see it yet, but you can just keep track of where it is and where it's coming from just by drawing it underneath the point of creation. And remember, this one gets smaller. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this drawing out 8 frames so that it is being held for 8 frames. So this should be frame 9. Once I do that, you can see that the onion skin kind of delineates the first drawing. I have to do this with my mouse because I only want to hint at this. So let's take the onion skin down to just a frame before, a frame afterwards. And then we're going to take this drawing and hold it for 8 frames as well. So I want to make sure it's on frame 16. All right, so let's just take a look at that. It's going to go back here. And so we don't see the next one right here. So, all right, so now what we need to do is we're going to do an in between. So on frame 5, we're going to add an empty drawing, right? Everyone okay? Create an empty drawing. And now we can't see anything. So I'm going to open up this one. And we can see before and afterwards. I'm going to try to keep these equal to each other so that the intensity of the color is about the same. There we go. All right, so on this empty drawing, oh, I did it too few. All right, good, right there is perfect. So on this drawing, on our rough layer with our rough color, now we're just going to in between the main volumes. So, and oh, you know what? I do want my arc in there. So I'm going to take this arc out to the end. I'm just going to hold the plus key down. Remember that we're going to take it all the way out to 120. And then on this one, we're going to do it another way. We're just going to hit this button here and we're going to hit F5 on the keyboard. That's just faster. All right, so now with this empty drawing here, and remember now that we see our arc, but it can start to get confusing here. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to double click on my yellow, give my yellow a good alpha. We're going to click on the layout color. We're going to make sure we're in the layout color. We're going to get it alpha down just a little bit more, right? On the arc color. And we're going to give it we just want a hint of it. We just want to see it through the light table. What we're concerned about more is just that drawing right there. All right, so remember that once you start making a mark, everything changes a little bit. Make sure we're on the right color. We're rough and we have to be the rough color. All right, so we want to move this volume about right here. So pay attention to whether it's getting smaller or bigger. and pay attention to where you are. Just do it in order. This drawing is moving from here to about here. This drawing right here is moving into this position, so it's going about right there. All right, and then always hit your F and G keys take you forwards and backwards by keys, so you can see if it's working or not. And sometimes you have to kill your onion skin to see if it's actually working or not. So first drawing, see if those forms are moving. Make sure it's moving, and then this is your next one. So go back to the drawing you're working on. This form is getting really big, and it's right in the middle. So put it right about there. So the edge of this circle is moving from here to there, right? And it's moving on an arc too. So from here to here, it's about halfway. So something about like that. All right, so then go backwards, see if it's moving. Go, oops, sorry, I'm on the wrong layer. Right, so that's starting to work, right? All right, so now on this drawing, this one is moving from here to here. Let me make sure of something. Right, okay, so this one, it's moving quicker. This big part is moving quicker, and it's getting smaller. So now it's about right. So just take a little dot, put a little dot right here, and another dot right here, and then in between those dots, that's just the left edge. So put there. This is, and then you can get the idea of where that puff of smoke is. All right, then this little one is right. This is the leading edge, the left edge of A goes to this position, but it's getting much bigger. So in between this dot to this dot, put it right there. And then the right edge of the dot goes from here all the way over here. It goes from this position all the way over here. So halfway is about here. And then just make your volume like about like that. And then use your F and G keys. Go first key, second key, third key, right? Go back to the first one. First key, second key, third key. And what you have to do is you have to make sure that this drawing is in the right place, right? You have to make sure. So right away, I'm seeing that this A position right here should be moving to about right here. And so what I'm seeing is that this may not be the best position for this little clump right here. So I'm just going to erase it. I'm going to go back to my pencil because I think it should be moving right about this way. All right, let's test it. Left, right. That looks better. Left and right. This position. All right, so we keep doing this. And now remember that you can treat this like a flag, but now you've got quite a bit more nodes to worry about. This node right here is going to move from here to here to here to here to here to here, and you just keep doing it. You just make sure that this drawing here is your main key. It's absolutely your main key, and that this A has to move from this position into this position into this position. It goes from here to here to here to here to here. It's the same puff of smoke. It's just getting a little smaller, then it gets really big, then it gets medium, then it gets really big, right? But the trick is that if you don't want to treat this like a flag, that you have to try to get the main in between done first, right? Actually, let me think about this for just a moment. I'm confusing myself. I always do this when I'm talking. I'm going to select this and kill this because I think I might have spoken incorrectly. Let me go back to my main key. This one, Okay. All right, this is correct. Okay, that's correct. I think that you saw that I had 2 puffs of smoke in there. And that's what I get for trying to talk and draw at the same time. I only need 1 right here. All right, so in order to really make sure it's working, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this puppy out to 8 drawings. So right now I'm on 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm gonna take this puppy out to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's on 8 drawings. So everything's on 8 drawings. Obviously you could play this, it's not gonna help you. But what's gonna matter is that you know that this A is moving into this A because now this is the in-between, the breakdown position. This A is moving into this position. So this is the correct breakdown position. This A puff of smoke is moving from here to here. This is the correct position. This smaller one, it becomes smaller. Now is going to become bigger. So that's correct. Now we're going to go from these, and this is the breakdown. So on this drawing right here, you can just say, this is your breakdown drawing. Now on this one, making an empty drawing again with our onion skin turned on and making a mark, because then it just changes the intensity of the color. We're gonna have to go from that position to this position, right? This position into this position. So right now I can't see this little green. It's not bright enough for me. So I might want to just kind of increase this a little bit to make it a little more bold. Oops, sorry. It works best with the mouse. So what I'm saying is that this determines the intensity of this color. If I had it where it was, then this, it's too light. And right there, it's okay, but right on that frame, it's even better. So now I know where I'm going. And let's do the same thing. Rough color, rough layer, pencil. Good. Test this to make sure it didn't change. And just do the volume first. This little node is going from here to here. This is about halfway. This node is going from here. The right side is going from here to here. This is about halfway. So just draw this in. And we'll come back to the other part later. We're going from red to green. Red to green. So there's probably a clump of smoke coming out. We're going from red to green. So if you just use your F key to go backwards and your G key to go forwards. All right, so we're on this drawing here. We're going from red to green. Actually, what I think I want to do is I want to take this red down a little bit, just so that it's not quite so intense. All right, we're going from, again, let me just stop talking for a moment. All right, you can see what I'm doing, right? I'm concentrating on one little circle moving from this position into this position. And then on the next keyframe, it's moving there. So this one's moving correct, right? So I'm just doing one little puff of smoke at a time. Then I'm going to look at this puff of smoke from this position to this position, going backwards, forwards into this position. All right. So let's put an empty drawing here. I turn our onion skin back on. Sometimes what helps is if you get to the point where you know what the numbers are, and then you can actually go on your arc layer and write in drawing 1, 3, 5, 7. So what we can do is we can kind of look at this position here on the arc. And this might help you, is to go on the arc layer with the arc color, turn the other layers off for just a moment. And so that you get the idea of this arc being your main position for all the center points. And let's just take our arc, oops, alpha up a little bit. Maybe that's too far. So what I'm saying is that each circle has a center point. And what you're going to be doing is following that circle on the center point. You're going to number the center points. So right here, you've got 1. And then this becomes 1 as well, right? This center point becomes 1. This center point here becomes 1. And you can, in order to not get confused, you can say that you're gonna say 1, 3, 5, 7. You want it to be on 2s. 9, 11, 13, 15, 16. So if you have 16 drawings between this position and this position, that would be 32 frames. And 32 frames is about 1.5 seconds. So I'm going to put a square around that. And you say, okay, in the smoke, going from this position to this position in 1.5 seconds is fairly realistic. Now you can go and change these timings later, but in order to keep track of where the shapes are moving on this arc, about halfway. So 1 is your first key, and then the 1 is out here again, it's repeating. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drawings. That's an even number. So if I put my breakdown position as 11, that means I've got 3 drawings on the right and 4 drawings on the left. So if you wanted to be more precise about the position of it, you could say, we're going to go to key position number, I'm sorry, this is 17. This is 17. So you could go to position, this is 19. That means that 11 is right in the middle. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 drawings between your first key and your breakdowns are always underlined, and 4 drawings between the, oh no, you've only got 3 drawings here, so you would need drawing 21. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21. So 21 would become your key position. I lied. I totally lied. Hold on one second. You need drawing 21, but number 1 is the key position. So now you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I lied again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Stop listening to your professor. 21 is your key position, but it is a copy of 1. Does that make sense? 21 will appear out here in the timeline, but it is drawing 21. So let me circle those together. All right, so 11. So if you wanted to keep track of these center points on the line, that this is drawing 11, and 11 always gets an underline. So you draw your center points, go here, this is drawing 11, going from here to this position. This is drawing 11, and I'm making this away from the actual drawing itself because there'll be a lot of stuff in the way. And then if you really want to see this more clearly, you can use a red color. So you can go 1, 11, 1, 11, 1, 11, 1, 11, and then out here should be 1 again. And so that helps set the timing. You see that there it's moving a little faster right there. You can see that it's moving just a little faster right there. And that's just because there's more space. That there's more distance on that line. And then if you really want to be clear about this, you could use a solid green and go, those are your breakdown positions. Here's your first in between. And then number that. So the first in between is 7. And then so this one would be their first in between is 7. The first other in between is 15. (15) 15, 15, 7, and 15, 7, and 15. All right, does that make sense right there? Just planning it out, just figuring out where each one of those little circles of smoke goes. Why did I screw this up? Let me go back to 1. All right, I apologize. This right here, what I've just drawn is a very traditional animator's key. And let me just repeat that. If you go from key number 1, and you're going from key 1 into 17, and you're moving at a regular rate, the traditional breakdown position is 9. That means that your first in between is 7, and your next in between is 11. And then that gives your assistant animator the chance to, oh, I'm sorry, 5. I screwed this up again. 5, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, right. So this is 5. And this is just a traditional spacing. The 5 and 13 are your first in-betweens. And then that way you can just pay someone to go in and do 3, 7, 11, and 15. So in a traditional animator way of working, 1 and 17 is a very typical way of dividing up your space. If you were going to do an ease in to 17, then you would take this 9 position as a breakdown and drop it on thirds closer to 17. And then what that does is it puts 13 closer to 17, and then you automatically have a favor going into the 17 position. If you were going to do an extreme favor into 17, that instead of, this is thirds, so this 5 position becomes technically a breakdown. So if you're going to take it on fourths and push the 9 position here to the 4th, that means that 9 is an extreme favor to 17. And then that way you've got thirds between 1 and 9, and going backwards, you just go 5, 7. Actually, you can do this a number of different ways, but you put your 13 position here, and then all of a sudden you go 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, 7, 5, and then do a cushion out. And this is an ease in to 17. So when animators are working, it's very traditional to go from 1 to 17. So what I was doing here, I don't know what I was thinking. I think I just woke up. You know, it's 11:44 and I just woke up. So forget about this. 17 is the traditional place, because then 9 becomes your breakdown position, and it becomes just a little easier to understand just in terms of numbers. So forget about that. Billy just woke up. And this is the part where you can change later. This is the part where you can say, oh, this was on 2s. The whole thing is moving just a little slowly, but at least you can get your positions correct. So the first principal breakdown on an even position going from 1 to 17 is 9. And then you've got 3 drawings in between each one. So 5 and 13 are your main positions. So on your arc layer, I'm gonna get these, we're gonna just redo these so that the numbers, not the position, just the numbers, so that they're more clear for you. And then you can always hold these and do them for a different set of timings if you want. So in black, this is my drawing 1, that's a key. This is drawing 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, good. So the in between each one of those is 9. Put an underline on it. And put a 9. Between the 2 red positions is 9. Put an underline. Between the 2 positions is 9. All right. And so the red is 9. This is a 9 position. And then that way you can keep track of it with black. Remember, it's on the arc layer, so you can, and we're drawing in black, so you may have to kill the alpha on the black. But then you can go back in and say, I've got 3 positions between each one of those. So this becomes 5, this becomes 3, this becomes 7. This becomes 13 right in between, and then 11 and 13. And then you can just divide those up equally spaced on the arc, just like that. And this is your arc. So that's 9. Again, it's moving a little faster right there. 9 goes into 13. That's about halfway. Then go backwards and forwards. This is drawing 1, goes into 9. So this is 5. That's 3. Slowing down a little bit. 9 goes back into 1. This is 13, 11, and 15. And then 1. This is the 9 position here. So that means that this right here is 5, 3, 7. And this is over here. So this is 13 position here. And then 9, 11, 15, and 17. All right, so that should help you. Just getting the one of the first clumps of smoke to work. And I know it gets a little confusing once you start seeing everything, especially with the onion skin on, right? But I think the way to work here is to make sure that you're just using your tools correctly and your colors correctly and the names of those colors correctly. You've got your first key, you've got your second key, you've got your third key. Right now, I turn my layout back on. It's the arc. The arc layer is really bright right now. Hit that right sweet spot on the alpha. All right, and then get this is your first tee. And then it would be great if you could number these in the timeline. But remember that what you're doing is you're just drawing this clump of smoke, moving into this clump of smoke, and that one was halfway. So that was our red position. This position goes into here. This position was A, goes into here. So this red is in the right position. This red one is in the right position. This red one is in the right position. All right, does that make sense for everybody? And then you just keep repeating this. The thing is to follow your arc and go, draw your main key out, and then one of the things to not be confused about is that drawing 17 is actually drawing 1 again, because it's cycling. So if you wanted to make a note for yourself on the arc with the black color, that this drawing number 1 is the same as 17. So it's the same. Animators will learn about this when you're doing like walk cycles, that drawing 1 and drawing 17 are actually the same drawing. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put, I'll do a little walk cycle that has 1, and then I'll put 17 down here. I'll do this little loop up here and I'll say, well, you know what? 9 is the breakdown position. This is just like for 5 seconds here. This is the contact position, down, passing, and up. 1, 3, 5, 7. I've forgotten my graphic. But let's go back to this. All right, so then remember that when you're doing this animator thing here, it's easiest to make sure your positions on the arc are correct. Pay attention to what number you're on. So you're on frame 9 right here. And so we did kill our arc layer. We did kill the layout layer. Let's find where our numbers were. So they're not on the black layer. It could be that because I was talking, I drew them on an odd layer. I might have drawn them on the arc layer. Hey, where did I draw my numbers? All right, let me find where I drew my numbers. Did anybody notice where I was drawing my numbers? All right, so, it's because I didn't draw the numbers. I drew the breakdown positions. Right, so on frame 9 here, following those positions, you just draw the circle in the right place. So the proper procedure here is to just draw the key, draw the breakdown position, and then go back in and do 5 and 13. Make sure it's working. That's the animation way to do it. I think it would take too long because in the flag you've got one node going up, going into this. You're only doing this part of the flag. Here you're doing like the banner flag, and you're actually getting quite a bit more undulations going up and down. And so you could do that if you want. You could just start, you could animate it straight ahead, right? All right, so what I'd like to do right now is see if you have any questions for me. This is recording. What I'd like to see is your main motion working next week. And again, I think that the proper way to work is setting this main key form, setting this main drawing here, making sure that this is what you want. And again, I think that you can go, let's go all the way back to our just discussion that if you understand what we're doing, you could actually even just animate smoke like this. That would be fine. This isn't really volcano smoke, right? The smoke here is more chimney smoke, right? This is chimney smoke too. Volcano smoke can look and often does look like chimney smoke. So something in between those two. Again, I wouldn't try to get the counterclockwise and clockwise motion in the plumes of smoke itself, just because it's really hard to keep track of. And the gods help you trying to do that and talking at the same time. Again, this example here, there's just way too much detail. You know, this is kind of a cool thing if you wanted to try it. This is not smoke. It's actually supposed to be steel staircase for an Art Nouveau thing. Here's a bit of smoke that's just drawn straight ahead, which kind of looks like something that you might want to use for our final. Again, that's part of our effects board. All right, so the idea then is to get this smoke animating, get the sense of time. So remember that generally speaking, this A position here wants to move and should be into this A position here, because just we called it, in 32 frames. It's moving nice, and so it's good for, so from 1.5 or 1.25 seconds, that this A clump of smoke is going to move into this position. So that is your main keyframe. These are your main key positions here on that arc, right? The general, this yellow green thing is just the general overall push of the smoke, but the arc is actually up and down and up and down and up again, right? So this is like your main cone, your main push, but the arc is here. And this A position is going to move from this position to this position in about 1.25 seconds, which is about 32 frames. So you should be out to about here by next week. If you do this right, it should take you a couple hours just to get it to looking rough. So your line should look something like this for next week. And then next week, we'll talk about adding in a highlight and a shadow, and getting these extra little pieces working. And I'll show you how to scale it. If you need to, you can share your screen with me and I can walk you through timing down here in the timeline. But you should have this shape moving at or around the right speed by next week. Again, this A position right here moves into this A position. And then this key position moves into the bigger one. And you do have to animate it off the stage because you need to keep track of all of the shapes as they move off the screen. You don't have to draw this part out here, but you have to draw at least a couple of frames off the stage so you know where it's moving. And again, I'm just going to hit Shift M. So we did start at or around the left, lower left focal point, which gives us a kind of a nice room to play. And then remember too that if you want to at the last minute, you can flip this whole thing. You can make it go from you know you're working on it for an hour, and then all of a sudden you take the whole thing and you flip it to go right to left, and it looks completely different to you. Okay. A recording of this will be up in an hour or so, and I will see you all next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, ciao for now. Let you out a little early.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Okay, see you next week.
Okay, bye.